9:30 on a Monday evening in September. Welcome. I've just finished work. Well, about half an hour ago. I've had lunch. No, oh my God, I've had dinner. I'm super tired. Okay, this is a chatty, rambly behind the scenes this month, but it will be worth it, I promise. September for me is the month when normally it's all about that go back to school vibe. No, I don't go to school anymore, but I work for a school. But you know what I mean? There's that energy of everything restarting, especially here in Italy, because as you know, everything kind of stops in August. But for me, I've found it really difficult to get back into the flow. I think because we've had such a busy month already. We've been back to Palermo, as you've just seen, for a wedding. And also I'm working on a few different things at the moment. And yeah, I'm a bit scattered, but here we are. Welcome to September and welcome to what is going to be my brand new podcasting space. I'm super excited. So this is just a corner of my office, which I've used sometimes for some of my videos. You might recognize the sofa, and above me are some manifestation posters. But I'm making this a designated podcast space because, as most of you know, I'm sure, I am transitioning my podcast from audio only to video podcast, and I'll be relaunching it in October. And I have just been thinking about this for such a long time because I've been like, how am I going to make my podcast stand out from my videos in terms of how it looks, how it feels? And so I did a bit of thinking. I've been consuming a lot of content recently about branding, and I was like, it's time to rebrand my podcast, because at the moment my podcast is Lessons from the Boot, and I called it this because it's playing on the shape of Italy as a country and of course the lessons that I learned from living here. But the format of my podcast as a video would end up looking very much like my normal videos on YouTube. I try to go out and film as much as I can outdoors, but a lot of my content I film indoors, sit down, having a chat with you about my life. And so I needed to change things up. Hence the rebrand. So you are the first to know about this, and you'll be the first to see this space as soon as everything arrives, because I've just ordered all the decor for it before it actually goes live in October. So let's talk about it. Rebranding. I have been really, really keen to give my podcast a theme. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I recently came across one called Business Class, and I loved the imagination behind it because essentially every aspect of that podcast is centered around flying business class, from the kind of sections of the podcast to the intro music. It's incredible. And even the set, they've designed it to look like it's the inside of a business class suite. It's incredible. And I just got thinking, how can I do the same for my podcast? Because I want it to feel different. And so, based on my favorite aperitivo drink here in Italy, I introduced to you my new podcast, Spritz of Wisdom. I'm in love with this. Let me explain. My podcast is going to be themed around this aperitivo style chat that I will have with you once a week. That will be broken down into 3 parts: the sip, the full pour, and the final chin chin. Because the sip is going to be a reflection on my past week, the highs, the lows, the things that, I've been through. The full pour is the content of that podcast episode, what it is I'm there to talk to you about in that day. And then the final chin chin is going to be your takeaway, what you can learn from that episode, how you can apply it to your own life. I'm super excited by this format, and I'm super excited to design this space. I've ordered an orange LED light with my podcast name that will go above me here once it arrives. It's circular. I've also ordered a vintage style Aperol Spritz poster, which I plan to put up here. And then I've also ordered this kind of shelving system, if you like, that looks a bit like it could be in a bar, but it isn't meant to be. And I'm thinking of putting that here with some decorations on it linked to Aperol Spritz. But I'm so excited by this format, and it just feels fresh and it feels different. Like, I'm not just here chatting away. I've got a theme, I've got a structure, always about life in Italy, but with a bit of a playful take on it. So I am super, super excited. You will be the first to see the new set once it's designed. So I've been thinking about that. I've also been going back to my idea of doing a membership community. I realize more and more how much I could do with this kind of membership community as well, as much as you guys could benefit from it in terms of having a space where we can all learn from each other and communicate with each other and just share our dreams and goals about moving to Italy and living in Italy, right? And so I'm going back to that stage now of like, okay, I've got to make this happen. And also I think, there's this thing called a forced upgrade. I don't know if you believe in this, but I do. I believe that sometimes in life we have ideas, we don't take action. And then if they are really the things that we should be doing, what happens is the universe gives you a forced upgrade. Something happens that means that you actually have to take that action. I always liken it back to my experience in the UK when I had a car. I had a little Peugeot 206 as my first car, and I had my business. And then my car was just too small for me to carry all my stuff to the events. And I kept saying, oh gosh, I'd love to have a bigger car. But, for whatever reason, I never really pursued it. And then I took my car in to have its yearly MOT, its yearly service. And there was so much that needed to be done. It just wasn't worth paying that on what was essentially at that point, a car of quite a few years. And so that was the forced upgrade from the universe. That meant I got a much bigger 4x4 type car, which was much more suitable for my events. And I feel like the same thing is happening now with this community idea I've had. So I kind of floated this idea a few months ago, set up a wait list. I've got people on that wait list. And then I kind of put it to one side because I was like, this is actually quite complicated. I don't know how I'm going to do it. My mind is distracted with creating videos and content, and it's just me. But what's happening is that I pay separately for a few different services to run this Ms. Britaly brand. I have a mailing list that I pay for a website, I pay for Epidemic Sound, which is the music that I feature in my YouTube videos. I pay for a few different things linked to having this YouTube channel and the things that I do. And one of those services, particularly my mailing list, is increasing in price in October to a sum that I don't think is justified. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? Do I continue to pay all these amounts with this extra increase that's going to kick in October, November time? Or is this the moment where I find a platform where I can consolidate everything and maybe save some money and make my life simpler in the process? So this is the forced upgrade moment. So there are so many things happening behind the scenes this month. I feel a bit overwhelmed, but I know that it's all happening. It's all going in the right direction. And I think, the lesson I want you to take from this behind the scenes video, because I try to give you some kind of value every month of my life here, is that you just got to go with the flow sometimes. This is something that I've learned the most living here in Italy. I struggle with this at points because I'm very much like, I need to have a plan. I've got to know how I'm going from A to B to C to D. But sometimes you just have to trust in the process and you have to go with the flow and you have to let things happen when they're meant to. I feel like a surge in energy now, as we approach the end of September. And so I feel like the next few months are going to be super productive for me. But I'm excited. I'm so excited for fresh things, for changes, and for not getting stuck in a comfort zone. I do not do well in a comfort zone. And, I realized it was time for me to change things up with my podcast. And so I'm super excited for everything to come. But this is my September. October is going to be fun. I'm going to be taking you on a trip with me. I'm going to be taking you around to some places that we go to in October, because I've deliberately not done so much in September because of all these other things that we're doing, but also because it's still very much tourist season here. I don't know if you saw a short that I did a few weeks ago where I said that actually this year, September here along the Amalfi Coast is said to be the busiest month, and actually August was a little bit less so. October is the month. The weather's a bit dicey, but I'm going to be taking you around, and some of it will be on my main channel and some of it will be just for you guys, maybe more of the behind the scenes for you guys, but the main video will be on my main channel. But I'm going to be showing you what parts of the Amalfi can be like low season, so you get a flavour, because they look very, very different to how they look in the height of tourist season, So I'm super excited for October. But enough, this is September, this is here and now. Thank you for being on this journey with me and for supporting me in this way. And I will see you in October with my brand new podcast set that you're going to see first, and all those other little bits and pieces that I spoke about. See you next month.